owns everything in this world, right? When Allah creates something, He owns it. So to say that God doesn't have a donkey means what? Means that this guy doesn't understand. So he wanted to make sure. He said, wait. Are you saying your God, your Lord doesn't have a donkey? So the worshipper repeats himself. He said that, yeah, I'm saying that He doesn't have a donkey, because if He had one, obviously the donkey would be here and be eating the grass, and all this luscious green grass wouldn't go to waste. So the angel says, I understand now. And God reveals to the angel, He says that, إِنَّمَا أُثِيبُهُ عَلَى قَدْرِ عَقْلِهِ. I have rewarded him. His reward is according to his understanding. He has such a low understanding of me that I can't give him more than what I showed you. You see, because if he was truly worshiping God, he would understand some basic principles. That number one, God is just. If God doesn't want to put a donkey here, then God's not going to put a donkey here. There's a reason for it. And number two is that to say that God doesn't have a donkey, all donkeys belong to God. And number three, to question God like that. To just say that, if only God were to do this, or if God were to do this. It's as if He's taking God to court. Well, that's not right. Somebody who worships with a proper understanding should be submissive. Should understand that God operates on the principle of wisdom and perfect justice. Please recite aloud to Allah. Now let's fast forward to current times. Okay, that was the story of the worshipper of the Bani Israel. I don't know if you guys saw this in the news less than 2 years ago. There was a state senator in Nebraska who filed a lawsuit. So when I saw this article, first of all, I was surprised because I didn't know that Nebraska even was big enough to have a state senate. So I was, it's like, okay, fine. So this guy, he's making headlines for Nebraska. Like, good job, go, right? So he files a lawsuit. Now, why did he make headlines? It's because, and people file lawsuits all the time, right? But his lawsuit, he files this lawsuit against God. Right? He filed a lawsuit against God. And so people were like shocked. They're like, he's filing a lawsuit against God. And this is what he says. He says that I'm filing a lawsuit against God because God has spread fear across the globe. He is causing widespread death, destruction, and terrorization of millions upon millions of the earth's inhabitants. He's causing fearsome floods, horrendous hurricanes, earthquakes, plagues, famine, genocidal wars, birth defects, terrifying tornadoes, and the like. And he wants the courts to order God to cease harmful activities and the making of terroristic threats. He's making God seem like Al-Qaeda. Okay? So he files this lawsuit and he makes headlines. You can look him up on the internet as well too. So when I saw this, it's interesting because here's somebody. Now I don't know if he's a believer or not. Okay, but it's somebody who, it seems that at least he acknowledges that there's a God. Because if he didn't acknowledge that there was a God, he wouldn't file a lawsuit. But his understanding of God is so little. It's so little that he stoops to this level that he's going to file a lawsuit. Because after all, we know that this type of claims, this is not, this is silly. Okay, this is silly. We, as believers, especially people who adopt and accept the school of the Shia Ithna Ashri, where our principles are based on defendable logic, right? We can sit down with such a person and say that you have a wrong perception of the thing. Okay, this seems a little bit kind of out there, right? But you might have friends or acquaintances at work or school, and they're making the same type of things. They tell you that, wait a minute, okay, I have no problem with what you're saying about God and everything. But if there is a God, then why is there sadness? Why is there sickness? Why is there unhappiness? These type of things. Right? So we should know the answer to this. Okay, we should be able to sit down with such a person and say that, okay, I know where you're coming from, but let's talk about it. Okay, I believe in the same God, and I believe that there's injustice on the earth as well too. And the reason for that injustice is because of the system that God created of free will. Okay, God didn't make us angels. We're different than angels. We have the ability to make choices. And we have the ability to make choices that will cause destruction. That's the way the world works. And so when you're saying that God is causing, genocidal wars, no, it's not God who's doing that. It's the dictators. People who aren't satisfied with, people who have intoxicated themselves with worldly pursuits. And things like floods and hurricanes, well, from your perspective, your narrow perspective, you're looking at this particular house that was destroyed in the hurricane. But you're ignoring the larger picture of like, what are the benefits of the hurricane? Why is it that in this system of a weather system that we have, that we need to have hurricanes, we need to have earthquakes? What if we didn't have an earthquake? How much pressure would build up underneath the Earth's surface? And what would happen if we were to just explode at one go? If you see things from a larger picture, you see that this world is actually built on a lot of wisdom, and there's a harmonious system in place that's governing the different sort of natural events that take place. So these types of discussions we can have with somebody and we can convince them. We can raise the level of their intellect. We can raise the level of their understanding. Now, brothers and sisters, this was a state senator in Nebraska. But the sad thing is that we, unfortunately, are witnessing cases where even among our own, people are taking God to court. Okay, people are taking God to court. When's the last time you heard, inshallah you haven't, but I know I have, I've heard among our own, meaning among the Shia community, people say things like, I think that it should be this way. I think that God wouldn't have wanted this thing. Okay, without, there's these people here who have spent their whole lives, centuries of tradition and scholarship going into finding out what did God say on the issue. And this person comes with no education, or maybe just a little bit of education, and they say that, no, I think that God must have meant this thing right here. Okay? We see that from our own. Okay? We're seeing people who, they go through the motions, but the smallest thing happens, the smallest test comes up in life. A romantic pursuit. Some opportunity comes up, and then, bang. It's like everything goes. The faith is gone. I'm seeing that with my own eyes. And it's very saddening, because the way that the Ahlul Bayt have encouraged us to accept and understand the religion is to come at it with a deep understanding, to understand the why of what we do. And to be convinced. If we're not convinced, then of course, if shaitan comes and he goes boo, then we'll get scared. Okay? But if we're convinced, we understand things at a deeper level, then okay, if you want you can bring any doubt, anything that you have in mind. But my faith is so strong that even if the whole world were to stand against me and tell me that what I'm saying is not true, I won't budge. Because I know that what I'm saying is the truth. I'm convinced, and I understand why I do what I do and why I believe what I believe. This is Allah. Brothers and sisters, having a deeper understanding of our religion is very important. Okay? It's extremely important. And let me just give you a couple of scenarios that I feel that if we don't do this, then we're really risking our futures. One of the examples that comes to the forefront is that of marriage. Okay, inshallah, everyone here, is either married, or they have an intention of getting married, or they're in the process of getting married, inshallah, because it's a very highly recommended thing in Islam. Now, marriage is something that everyone wants to do, but we're seeing that the percentage of failures in marriage right now is extremely high. The community leaders across America, Canada, other places are reporting percentages which are just unbelievably high. They're so high. I can't even say them because it's too unbelievable. How many people, within the first, if they for example they meet, then they agree to get married, they get engaged Islamically, how many of those break? Let's just say more than half. And then even people who get married, how many of them within the first year they get divorced? And I'm sure even brothers and sisters know of in the families that they're aware of, and they know that they know of cases where people are either undergoing difficulties or it's happened. They've actually divorced. So if I'm a young person and I'm saying that okay, I want to get married because it's something that it's desirable, it's something that everyone does eventually, inshallah, it's something that's recommended in Islam. If I do not have a deep understanding of what a married couple is supposed to be like, how, according to Islam, they're supposed to maintain and further that love, then what am I going to do? What am I going to do to make sure that my marriage is successful? Am I going to listen to Oprah Winfrey? Okay, like what is she gonna tell me what to do? Right? Am I gonna look at what